My name is Olivia Hamilton, and tomorrow morning, my three brothers will learn a very expensive lesson about underestimating their helpless little sister. As I sit here in my father's study, listening to them celebrate their supposed victory in the next room, I can't help but smile at their ignorance. They think they've won by forging a new will, but they have no idea that Dad and I outmaneuvered them years ago. Let me take you back to where this all began. The Hamilton family has been a powerhouse in the real estate development industry for 3 generations. My grandfather built the foundation, my father expanded it into an empire, and my brothers, well, they've mostly been riding on the family name while draining resources faster than they could be replenished. I'm the youngest of 4 children and the only daughter. My brothers, Jackson, 38, twins Marcus and Matthew, 35, and then there's me at 32. Growing up, being the baby sister to 3 aggressive, entitled brothers wasn't easy. They constantly reminded me that the Hamilton Empire was man's work, and that my role was to eventually marry well and stay out of their way. But they didn't know about the special bond one shared with our father, Jonathan Hamilton. Dad was different from the typical business tycoon. Yes, he was ruthless in business when he needed to be, but he was also incredibly perceptive and forward-thinking. While my brothers were out partying and squandering their trust funds, I was sitting in Dad's study, learning everything about the family business. "Watch and learn, Olivia," he would say, showing me contracts and business strategies. "Your brothers see money as something to spend. You see it as something to build with. That's the difference that matters." Dad recognized early on that I had inherited his business acumen. By the time I was 16, I was already analyzing investment opportunities and spotting market trends. While my brothers bragged about their positions in the company, I was quietly learning every aspect of the business from the ground up. "Never let them know how much you understand," Dad advised me. "Sometimes being underestimated is your greatest advantage." I took his advice to heart. In public, I played the role they expected, the nice, naive little sister who needed their protection. I got my MBA from Harvard but downplayed it as something to keep me busy. I worked in various positions throughout the company, but always in ways that seemed non-threatening to their egos. Meanwhile, Dad and I were orchestrating something they never saw coming. 3 years ago, Dad was diagnosed with aggressive pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave him 18 months at best. While my brothers responded by fighting over who would take control after his death, Dad and I put our secret plan into action. "Your brothers will tear this company apart," he told me during one of our private meetings. "They've already started embezzling funds, thinking I wouldn't notice. It's time to protect what we've built." Over the next year, we quietly restructured the entire Hamilton empire. The various companies, properties, and assets were consolidated into a complex trust structure. On paper, everything still appeared to be under the traditional family holdings, but the real control had been transferred to a new entity, one that I solely controlled. Dad also made sure I understood every aspect of the business intimately. While my brothers attended board meetings and posed for photos, I was learning about our hidden assets, secret accounts, and the intricate web of business relationships that really kept the empire running. "They think business is about showing off," Dad would say, shaking his head as we watched my brothers arrive at the office in their flashy sports cars. They never learned that real power moves quietly. As Dad's health declined, my brothers became more aggressive in their plotting. I discovered they were meeting with lawyers, planning to contest the will and force a division of assets that would give them complete control. What they didn't know was that we had anticipated this. Dad had left a will, yes, but it was essentially a smokescreen. The real transfer of power had already taken place through the trust structure we'd created. 2 weeks ago, Dad passed away. The funeral was exactly as expected. My brothers making grand speeches about carrying on his legacy while their wives competed for attention in designer morning wear. I played my part perfectly, appearing appropriately grief-stricken but helpless. Yesterday, they made their move. "Olivia, we need to talk," Jackson said, calling me into the family office. All 3 brothers were there, trying to hide their smirks. Marcus held up a document. "We found Dad's new will. He made some changes near the end." "What kind of changes?" I asked, making my voice small and worried. "Don't worry, we'll take care of you," Matthew said condescendingly. But Dad realized the company needed strong leadership. "Male leadership. You'll get a generous monthly allowance, but the business goes to us." They showed me the will, clearly forged but professionally done. According to this document, I was to receive a small trust fund while my brothers got complete control of the Hamilton Empire. I know this must be hard to accept, Jackson said, not even trying to hide his satisfaction. But face it, Liv, you're not cut out for this business. Better to let the men handle things. I forced tears into my eyes. How could Dad do this to me? They exchanged triumphant looks, clearly enjoying my apparent distress. Don't worry, little sister. Marcus patted my head like I was a child. We'll make sure you're taken care of. As long as you don't make trouble, you'll have enough to live comfortably. I ran from the room crying, giving them their moment of victory. Let them celebrate. Tomorrow's reading would change everything. That brings us to now. I'm sitting in Dad's study, listening to them through the wall as they drink expensive scotch and plan how they'll divide up the empire. They're so caught up in their celebration that they haven't even noticed the subtle changes happening around them. Over the past week, I've been quietly replacing key personnel with my own people. The security codes have been changed. The bank accounts they think they control have been frozen. Every document they need to prove their claims has been carefully relocated. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., Hamilton Industries' longtime lawyer, Mr. Peterson, will read Dad's official will. My brothers think they know what's coming. After all, they forged what they believe is the only copy. They don't know that Mr. Peterson has been part of Dad's and my planning from the beginning. They don't know about the trust structure that already owns everything. They don't know that their recent attempts at embezzlement have been carefully documented. Most importantly, they don't know that their little sister has been running the company behind the scenes for the past year. The next morning arrives bright and clear. I dress carefully in a perfectly tailored black suit. No more playing the helpless little sister. When I arrive at the lawyer's office, my brothers are already there, barely containing their smirks. Ready for this, Liv? Jackson asks, his voice dripping with false sympathy. I just smile and take my seat. Mr. Peterson begins reading the will, but not the one my brothers are expecting. Their faces transform from smug satisfaction to confusion to horror as they realize what's happening. The entire Hamilton Group, including all subsidiaries and holdings, was transferred to the Hamilton Family Trust 3 years ago, Mr. Peterson reads. The sole trustee and controller of said trust is Olivia Hamilton. This is a mistake, Marcus interrupts, his face red. We have the real will right here. He pulls out their forged document, but Mr. Peterson is ready. Ah yes, that document, he says, pulling out a thick folder. We have here forensic evidence of its forgery, along with documentation of your recent embezzlement attempts. The FBI is very interested in discussing both matters with you. The room erupts in chaos. My brothers start shouting, their wives burst into tears, threats and accusations fly. Through it all, I remain perfectly calm. You can't do this, Jackson roars. You're just a girl. You don't know anything about running this business. I stand up slowly, commanding the room's attention. Actually, I've been running it for the past year. Those deals you took credit for? The acquisitions you bragged about? The restructuring that saved us millions? That was all me. Dad knew exactly what he was doing when he chose his successor. We'll fight this, Matthew threatens. We'll take you to court. Feel free, I reply calmly. But first, you might want to check your bank accounts. It seems there are some irregularities that the forensic accountants would love to discuss with you. Their faces pale as they check their phones, discovering their accounts have been frozen. Don't worry, brothers, I say, echoing their condescending tone from yesterday. I'll make sure you're taken care of. After you repay everything you've stolen, of course. We are family, after all. The aftermath is exactly what you'd expect. My brothers tried to fight the trust structure in court, but only succeeded in exposing their own crimes. Jackson and Marcus are now facing federal charges for fraud and embezzlement. Matthew, the only one smart enough to cooperate, was allowed to keep a minor position in one of our smaller subsidiaries. The Hamilton Group has flourished under my leadership. Our stock price has doubled, we've expanded into new markets, and our reputation has never been stronger. The business world quickly discovered that being just a girl had no bearing on my ability to run an empire. Dad would be proud, I think. Not just of the business success, but of how I handled my brothers. He always said that true power isn't about forcing your way through. It's about being smart enough to let your opponents defeat themselves. Last week, I had lunch with Matthew. Of all my brothers, he's the only one who's shown genuine remorse. I never saw it, he admitted. All those years, we thought we were the strong ones, the smart ones. But you and Dad were 10 steps ahead of us the whole time. The problem wasn't that I was a woman, I told him. The problem was that you thought being men made you entitled to success without earning it. The Hamilton empire continues to grow, but now it's built on merit rather than machismo. I've made sure to implement policies that promote talent regardless of gender. My brother's old offices have been converted into a training center for promising young executives, many of them women who remind me of myself at their age. Sometimes I sit in Dad's old study, now my office, and think about how differently things might have turned out if my brothers had seen me as an equal instead of a threat to their inheritance. We might have built something together, combined our strengths instead of fighting over control. But they made their choice, and I made mine. Epilogue. 5 years have passed since that dramatic reading. The Hamilton Group has more than tripled in value under my leadership, expanding into new territories and industries my brothers never would have considered. Jackson and Marcus served 18 months in federal prison for fraud. After their release, they tried to start their own company, but found that the Hamilton name wasn't enough to succeed without actual business skill. Last I heard, they were working in middle management positions at different firms, their dreams of running an empire long forgotten. Matthew has proven himself worthy of a second chance. After 3 years of hard work in our smallest subsidiary, he's shown real growth and understanding. I recently promoted him to run our West Coast operations. Not because he's my brother, but because he earned it. The forged will that my brothers thought would guarantee their future hangs framed in my office. It's a reminder that sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about proving them wrong in every way that matters. Dad's lessons about quiet power and strategic patience have become part of the company's culture. We don't make headlines with flashy deals or dramatic takeovers. We build steadily, think long-term, and let our success speak for itself. Last month, a young woman fresh out of business school came into my office, nervous but determined. She reminded me of myself at that age, underestimated, overlooked, but burning with potential. They say women can't succeed in this industry, she told me during the interview. I smiled, thinking of my brothers and their shattered delusions of supremacy. Let them say what they want, I replied. Success doesn't care about gender. It cares about who's willing to work smart, stay patient, and play the long game. I hired her on the spot. The Hamilton name still means power in the business world, but now it stands for something different. Not the old boys club my brothers tried to preserve, but a modern empire built on merit, innovation, and the understanding that true strength often comes in unexpected packages. As for me, I keep the document that transferred everything to my trust displayed prominently in the company's lobby. It's a reminder to everyone who walks through our doors. Never underestimate someone just because they play along with your assumptions. Sometimes, the person you dismiss as powerless is the one holding all the cards. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.